Welcome to Using OpenShift. In this lesson you'll learn which components are needed to build an OpenShift cluster. Next I'll show you how to get started with OpenShift on your own laptop, or by using the OpenShift Sandbox that is provided by Red Hat in cloud. The lesson ends with the lab in which you can practice setting up your own environment. In this lesson you are going to learn how to work with OpenShift. Before installing OpenShift, let's talk about the different components that you will typically find in an OpenShift cluster. So in OpenShift, a control plane is provided as well as worker nodes. The control plane is a server, a computer that is in your OpenShift environment that is providing key OpenShift services. And the worker nodes, that is where your applications are going to be hosted. So on the control plane, you have controlling services, and the worker node runs user applications. For redundancy and availability, the control plane typically consists of 3 or more control nodes in real production OpenShift clusters. You should also have 3 or more nodes used as worker nodes if you want to use OpenShift to offer access to your applications. Then there is the OC CLI utility and the OpenShift dashboard. These are your main management utilities, and they are provided to manage the OpenShift environment. In OpenShift, you will frequently encounter operators. Operators are core components of OpenShift, and they provide features to the OpenShift cluster. So if you want to install additional functionality, in most cases you will need to install an operator. A wide range of operators is available, and you will have to install operators occasionally to get access to additional features. Then in OpenShift you have users. To get access to OpenShift, you will have to provide user credentials. That kind of makes sense because you don't want anybody to run applications in your clusters, do you? After a standard installation, a developer user and an administrator user with the name kubeadmin are created. So that is what you will find by default, and if you want anything else, you will need to create these users later. Role-based access control, or RBAC, is a key component of OpenShift that is used to configure access for these users. The developer user has permissions to run applications, but cannot change the cluster infrastructure components. And the kubeadmin user has full access to all cluster components, and depending on the type of OpenShift installation you're using, might not be available. What does that mean? Well, that means that if you are running OpenShift in one of the managed distributions as provided by main cloud providers, then the cloud provider is taking care of the infrastructure. And you won't have access to modify the infrastructure for yourself, because that involves additional billing and additional permissions as well. Another key component in OpenShift is the project. So OpenShift applications are started in projects. And a project is an API resource that can be created by users and which provides an isolated environment for running all application components. What you would typically do is run all of the components of one single application within a project. And that makes that everything is nicely kept together. An application typically consists of many components, and that is the main reason why it's recommended to run each application in its own project. You will find out that some complex applications easily have 20 or more different resources all related to the application. And how are you going to keep track of them if you are putting everything in one big project? It's like putting all your files on your computer in the same directory. You don't want to do that. That's why we have projects. I will show you later how you can use the OC new project command to define the project before using OC new app or OC create or OC run to actually start your applications. Now that we know a little bit about the key components in OpenShift, in the next video we'll talk about OpenShift Local. In this video we'll talk about OpenShift Local. So OpenShift Local is something that requires authorized access. It's pretty simple to organize. You need a Red Hat account. A free developer account can be created on developers.redhat.com. And this account allows you to evaluate OpenShift. You can also do OKD, OKD is the open source upstream for OpenShift. Go to okd.org, that's the OpenShift Kubernetes distribution. That allows you to build something completely on your own without having a developer account. But in this course, we will focus on the Red Hat flavor of OpenShift. So once you have OpenShift Local is an all-in-one solution. That means that it is not running multiple control nodes and multiple worker nodes. No, all OpenShift services are offered on one single machine. OpenShift Local is for learning, and it provides one virtual machine that runs all the essential OpenShift services as well as a user application. You can easily install it on top of Linux, Windows or macOS. Red Hat is providing easy installers for all of these platforms. Now, to keep the size manageable, many optional OpenShift applications are not installed by default in OpenShift Local. That shouldn't be a problem because in OpenShift you can easily add new applications by adding operators. And due to the single node nature, some operators can't be used on OpenShift Local. Let's talk about OpenShift virtualization, for instance. You can do OpenShift virtualization on OpenShift Local. You cannot do migration of virtual machines in OpenShift Local because in order to migrate a virtual machine, you need more than one computer in your OpenShift cluster. To use OpenShift Local, you will need at least 12 GB of available RAM, 4 CPU cores, and 60 GB of disk space. It runs as a virtual machine, but you do need to make sure that you meet the minimal requirements. Don't try to run it on much less, because that will be a disappointing experience where you will run out of memory all the time. So how do we start OpenShift Local? Well, first you need to go to developers.redhat.com/product/OpenShift/download. And there you will need to get the installer as well as a pull secret. And then from a terminal you use CRC setup or you use the operating system specific setup tool. I will show you first how to do it on Linux. And in the lab at the end of this lesson, you will see how you can install OpenShift Local on macOS. On Linux, it's all command line based. On macOS, there's a nice operating system specific setup tool. So once you've done the setup, you do the CRC start, where CRC, by the way, stands for Code Ready Containers. In the old days, we weren't talking about OpenShift Local. The name of the product was Code Ready Containers. That's why it's called CRC. So CRC start is what you use to create an OpenShift Local instance. And that will start OpenShift Local with 10 GB of RAM, 4 vCPUs, and 31 GB of disk space. And if you want to give it more resources, and I think that's something that you need to do, use a command like crc start -m. For the megabytes, 16384, that's 16 gigabytes. -C for the CPU cores, and -D for the gigabytes of disk space that you want to allocate. And once you're done, you can verify your installation. So first you use CRC console to start the web console in the default browser. You log in as kubeadmin with the password that is shown after completion of successful installation. And then from compute nodes, you select CRC node, where you can click terminal to access the terminal. And from there, you type top for a generic overview of process activity. And Q when you are done. And LSBLK is interesting as well to give you an overview of storage devices on your OpenShift Local machine. Let me show you how this works. So here I'm on developers.redhat.com. That's where you can download OpenShift Local. You can also complete the link to directly access the product download. So this brings us to the different options that you can use. So the ROSA hands-on experience, that's what you will learn about in the next lesson. That's about Red Hat OpenShift services on Amazon. The developer sandbox is very interesting. That's a cloud-hosted OpenShift virtual machine. We are not going to use ROSA or developer sandbox now. We are going for self-managed, where you can see the deploying on your local development machine. That is OpenShift Local, as you can see right here. The trial length is 60 days, and you click Start Your Trial, and that is going to bring you where you need to be. It's interesting that Red Hat is now bringing you to the Red Hat Hybrid Cloud Console. And in the Red Hat Hybrid Cloud Console, you are going to download what you need to get started. So we see the different components right here. OpenShift Local with the supported platform. So it's available for macOS, Windows, as well as Linux. So you support your platform. You click download OpenShift Local. You do also need to download the pull secret. And then you can use CRC setup. So pick whichever operating system you want. I'm going to demonstrate Linux. To get familiar with the procedure, I do advise, even if you want to install on another operating system, you watch my Linux-based demo first. So what you see here is my Linux-based machine. Let me show you cat on etc OS release. As you can see, it's a Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8.8. Doesn't have to be 9, 8.8 is good enough. 3-M is showing that this one has 16 gigabytes of RAM. df-h is showing that it has still 40 gigabytes. Is showing that it still has 40 gigabytes available in the root file system. 40 gigabytes is not great, but it should do it. And when we check in the downloads folder, you can see that I have this CRC Linux AMD 64 tar.xz. That's a file I've just downloaded. And there's the pull secret. The pull secret is the credentials that I'm going to use. So what are we going to use? Well, I'm going to use CRC setup. And CRC setup is checking if you meet all preconditions. If additional software needs to be installed, CRC setup will tell you about it. But here we can see your system is correctly set up for CRC. So use CRC start to start the instance. That's looking good, isn't it? That means that we are ready for the next step. And the next step is CRC start -M. 16384. Now let's not do 16384. Let's do 12 gigabytes. I almost forgot that this is a Linux virtual machine that by itself has 16 gigabytes of RAM. So I need what? 12 times 124, and that is 12 to 88. So CRC start -M. 12 to 88. I leave the CPUs and the disk space for what it is. And I am going to add -P for the pull secret. The pull secret is a file that contains your OpenShift credentials. And this is going to be required if you want to install OpenShift Local. So there we go. It is starting now. This is going to take a while. Depending on your resources, you'll easily be looking at 10 minutes, maybe even more. So when the installation has progressed pretty well, you will be looking at some operator-related messages. That's what we see here. So starting OpenShift instances, waiting for the clusters to stabilize. Operator ingress is progressing. Operator authentication is not yet available. And all operators are available and operators are stable. This will take a while. Depending on your configuration, the availability of resources, it can take quite a little bit. So just be patient. It will go away. And once it has gone away, you are ready. All right, so it took a while. You can see the error message that is displayed here. Still not stable after 10 minutes and 53 seconds, but it is here. It's also giving you some pretty important information. Login as administrator, username kubeadmin, and password. That's the administrator password, and login as user. This is providing the information on how to connect to your OpenShift cluster. But before you are going to log in as anything, you do need to set some environment variables. That's why I'm going for the eval crc oc env. And then I can use OC login -u developer on, well, HTTPS. You don't need the HTTPS stuff. Just do an OC login -u developer and you will be in as your developer user. So now it's time to verify the installation. And if you want to do that, use the crc console command. The crc console command is going to start a web interface. And this is the first screen that you will see. So it warns that the connection is not private. That's because we don't have the appropriate TLS certificates. That's okay. Just use show details and visit the website to visit the website. And yeah, we want to visit the website, and that's going to bring you there. And then again, visit the website, and eventually you will get in. And this is where you want to be. So we need to log in as kubeadmin. And oh boy, what was the password again? Well, if you get back to the terminal where you did your CRC start, here you can see the kubeadmin password. And I don't care too much about the fact that you can see my kubeadmin password because, hey, this is a local instance anyway. So I'm copying this kubeadmin password right here, ignoring all my browser messages trying to help me with this password. And then we are in a code-ready containers or OpenShift Local console. Yes, we know it's for development and testing purposes. Don't use it for production. We are going to select compute. So to find out what's happening, click compute. In compute, you can see all your nodes. Well, the nodes, that is how you typically investigate your OpenShift cluster. So here is the OpenShift cluster with the CRC node. And let's click it. And when you click it, you get access to all the details about your nodes. So you can actually investigate what is going on. Oh my goodness, can you see that? We already have 75 pods running on this machine. I'm going to click terminal, and terminal is giving access to a terminal. And in the terminal, you have a Linux interface to the OpenShift local virtual machine. The terminal itself is an OpenShift application, so the first time you access the terminal, it will take a while, but this is where it is bringing you. And you type commands like lsblk for list block device. You can see the block devices, df-h. Oh boy, that's a lot of overlay file systems. That's not really useful now, was it? But maybe free-m for an overview of memory. And hey, here you can really see this OpenShift local only has 10 gigabytes of memory and 150 megabytes currently is free. Now I know some of the memory is in buffers and cache, but still 150 free and so much already in buffers and cache for something that was just started. That is a lot. Much more about what we can do about with this OpenShift local in the next couple of upcoming videos. That's it for now. In this video, I'll tell you about another way to learn OpenShift. OpenShift Local is awesome, but it still does require 12 gigabytes of RAM. Not everybody has 12 gigabytes of RAM in their laptop. If you don't, there's OpenShift Sandbox. So what is OpenShift Sandbox? Well, it's a web-hosted environment. And it's good for learning how to run applications in OpenShift, but you will not have many options to manage cluster properties. So if you want to go for OpenShift administration as your next step, OpenShift Sandbox is not the best choice. But if you just want to learn how to run applications and how to configure your applications to run correctly, OpenShift Sandbox is quite okay. OpenShift Sandbox is free, it's time limited, and you can request access through redhat.com. The Sandbox environment is active for 30 days, then you need to request new access. And because of its limited nature, you will not be able to install additional operators in OpenShift Sandbox. Let's check it out. So again, you go to developers.redhat.com, you select the OpenShift link, And on the OpenShift link, you can click Try Red Hat OpenShift in our free developer sandbox. That's one you need. That is bringing you to the Red Hat Hybrid Cloud Console. And there you just have to click Get Started to get started with OpenShift Sandbox. This will prepare the sandbox, and look at that. Congratulations, you are ready to get started. So I got it, and it will be available for the next 30 days. That's what I was telling you. You can work with it for 30 days, then it expires, and you want to continue working with the OpenShift Sandbox, you need to activate it again. Now you can see the services that are available. Very interesting that it also offers Red Hat OpenShift AI. I'd love to tell you about that on another occasion, but for now we go for Red Hat OpenShift. I'm clicking Launch, and that is bringing me to the sandbox environment. So it's prompting login with, well, that will be Dev Sandbox. And look at that. Welcome to the developer perspective. We are going to skip the tour, and I want to find out what is going on. So here is the developer view. I tell you much more about this web interface in one of the next lessons. I am going to select the greater than underscore here because that looks like a prompt now, doesn't it? I next need to initialize my terminal. And I do so by selecting a product, and I make that mail dev. That's one of the products that the OpenShift Sandbox has created for me. And then I'm clicking Start, and that is going to start the command line terminal. That might take a minute, shouldn't be too long. And there we go. After a little bit of waiting, you will see welcome to the OpenShift web terminal. So what are we going to do here? Well, I would say OC get all is a nice way to get started. OC get all, I'll tell you much more about it later, is the command to figure out what is currently offered by OpenShift. Might be a little bit slow first time you are running it, but in the end you will see stuff. What does that mean? Stuff? Well, the stuff is everything that relates to your applications. And I know at this point it's meaningless, but by the time this course is over, you will understand all about it. All right, we are now at the end of this lesson. Let's do a lab. And you can probably guess what you are going to do in this lab. You are going to install OpenShift Local on your preferred operating system environment. I'd say good luck with it. I'm just going to continue and show you the solution for this lab, where I'm going to install OpenShift Local on top of macOS. So here we are on developers.redhat.com. I'm already logged in. And this time I'm going through Try OpenShift. And in Try OpenShift, you have this more ways to try. That's what I need. And in more ways to try, I need the deploy on your local development machine. Start your trial. Yeah, that's fine. I want to start my trial. So as you can see, it has detected what we've got here. So download what you want to install. I want to install OpenShift Local on macOS, and you need to select your platform if that is applicable, and then you go for download OpenShift Local. So let's do that. And that is going to download the file. So you need to open the macOS installer package. That will typically be from your downloads folder. And here you can see that we have a nice graphical window. This graphical window is kind of useless, but you need to click through it anyway. So click continue, and yes, you agree. And install for all users, yes, that is okay. That will take 200 megabytes of disk space. That's not all that it takes. It will take a lot more. But for now, click install and then enter your password and click install software. So what exactly is that going to do? Well, it is installing Red Hat OpenShift Local. And you can now open OpenShift Local from the applications folder. So we can move this to the bin. And honestly, I don't think you want to go for the applications folder. You just want to go for the CRC setup command on your console. So open a terminal, and in the terminal use CRC setup, and that is going to use the code ready containers file that you've just downloaded. And then there's a little bit of waiting involved. So if you think that you only need a couple of hundreds of megabytes of disk space, that's not true. Here is where you can see the real work starting. So it needs to download this bundle file, and that will take a while. And this is where you need to be patient. So at this point, OpenShift Local has been set up successfully, and we can use CRC start. CRC start needs a couple of arguments like -p pull secret, -m 12288 for 12 gigabytes of RAM, and -d 62 for 62 gigabytes of disk space. I definitely recommend using 62 gigabytes because you will be running out of disk space fast, especially if you start working with any of these operators. So press enter, and then the waiting starts again. And as you can see, it's already done. So what do we see? We see the login information, and well, we might as well want to try that. So command number 1 is eval. Eval is setting the environment CRC OC env. Without these variables, you won't have access to your OC client utility. So this is a pretty important command. And now you can use OC login -u developer to verify that you can log in as developer. But I would also recommend you use OC login -u cube admin -p followed by this long password. And you know why? If you do it once, you have it in history and you don't have to look it up anymore, because normal people don't remember passwords like this. So where are we now? Well, we are at the position that we are ready to get going. In lesson 3, you'll learn more about ROSA, a Red Hat OpenShift on Amazon AWS. In lesson 4, you'll start learning how to work with applications in OpenShift.